I feel it's important to understand and just know the science behind ACEs and trauma, because we respond to emergencies every single day, and every emergency is different. So it's going to carry its own trauma, and if we don't have compassion for that when we respond and we don't recognize that, then it could impact that child for several years to come, or even into their adulthood.
That's why this program is so important, because we need to recognize that these young children are being traumatized by these adverse events, and we can, with this training, we can recognize that they need some attention too, regardless of whether or not they're a victim of the crime that we're there for.
So often, just based upon our training, which is medical, if the child's not hurt physically, we're kind of moving on to the next person. I think the next step that's super important to us is being able to have a tool that we can utilize to help the situation. And this is just one more step in that right direction.
One of the most valuable pieces of this is the partnership between first responders and schools and community organizations, because there's a lot of power in the way that we respond to kids and families. And if we have this information in this training, I think that it could make a big difference for some of these kiddos that really need us to understand where they're coming from.
I think it'll just make us, come from more of a community care perspective in law enforcement, which I think will be really good as a whole.
I do think it's definitely going to be a benefit in the long run, just to have that empathy, heads up, a caution, approach with empathy. That's what I would say, little signs everywhere. Caution, approach with empathy.
As a school counselor, it helps remind me that if a child has experienced something, a traumatic event, and then comes to school and they're a little on edge, they're not managing themselves well, it just helps me know that I need to give a little TLC and kind of hold the container of school for that child, but hold that child lightly through the day.
A lot of times with students, what's helpful for them is just normalcy, having a normal school day with caring people around them. We don't need to solve, and we can't solve all these students' problems, but you can provide them with an organized, safe space to just exist and work through what they're dealing with.
I'm grateful that it's the only information we're getting is handled with care, because I think that also protects ourselves as staff members who are working directly with the kids. If you were carrying around the weight of holding all of that child's trauma, it could be burdensome.
Hopefully this program, I will see a decrease in crimes that come out of the school. And the reason I believe that is when youth are experiencing trauma, we see them act out. They are handling trauma and they don't know how to handle it themselves. And if people aren't aware of the trauma they have suffered, they don't necessarily give them any leeway, and then things escalate. With Handle with Care, they can put into place different ways to respond to that behavior that will subdue it instead of escalate it.
I think this program is going to be great. I wish this program was around when I was a kid. I mean, I'm a trauma survivor, so I was like a troubled youth. I was in and out of juvie quite a bit, and so yeah, if this program was around when I was younger, I probably would have spent a lot less time in juvie.
Understanding trauma and social emotional learning isn't just adding another thing to our plate. Understanding trauma and social emotional learning is the actual plate that holds everything else. And so we have to know how to hold that plate and keep it from cracking, or help it be repaired if it is cracked, because that's where everything else, all of the academic and long life social success sits. That's where it all sits.
I'm so grateful for the positions that teachers are in, because I've seen them save children. I really have. And I've seen school counselors do the same thing. And so I think this is a missing link. I think it can help build resiliency in children, having the support of the school.